Good morning everybody, it's Dan, hope you're well today. So just on the way to CrossFit for a change, as we do, and just on the way there I just want to talk about creating content within the framework of a sales funnel, effectively, because what most people do is they go, oh, I need to close some business, so they start generating content online and there's nowhere for the end user to go. Like, what's the next step is basically the question. What's the next step for the user or the viewer of that content? Where are they going to go next? What do you want them to do? What's the first step? Is it a download of a PDF? Is it to fill in a form? Is it to book a strategy session? What is it effectively? So if you can plan that and make sure that you've got that in place before you create content, then your content is going to be a lot more effective. And this is a problem that most people make, is they don't think this through. They've got no idea whatsoever about what the sales funnel is. Like, I don't know what I want the next person to do, what I want the person on the website to do. I just want them to buy stuff. Like, there's no thought behind it, and there has to be a conscious plan, a conscious path or journey for that customer. You know, in the olden days, it was much easier. You know, I think buyers in the 70s and the 80s, you know, you'd put an advert in the newspaper and people would buy it. And that's, you know, people would need maybe 3 or 4 views on that item or product or service and they would buy it. Now, that person needs, I don't know, 100? 100 eyeballs on that product or service. They need to see it 100 times before they're going to take any action. And so we're then into, okay, how do we get them to do that? So it's not just producing one piece of content, but it's producing hundreds of pieces of content, which is really hard to do, obviously. So you need a plan for that. Then, once, let's say, you get them to download a free PDF, what's the follow-up sequence? So let's say they see the advert or they see the post on social media a couple of times and they fill in an email form. What's the next step to move that customer along the customer journey? What are the touch points along the way? Because, as I say, that customer now needs a couple of hundred touch points with you before they're even going to consider making a purchase. Like, if you're not putting that in place, there's no way on this earth are you going to be selling lots and lots of things. You might get lucky and sell to the odd person here and there, which is also diabolical for you, because then it gets your hopes up that you're doing it right, and often you're not. You just got lucky. I mean, you know, don't get me wrong, I like luck, but I prefer a strategy. I like hope, I like optimism, but I prefer a strategy. And the strategy really should be, okay, this is the piece of content that I'm going to make. It's going to drive this person to this website. This website is going to give them more value. They're going to want more value by downloading the free PDF or booking a strategy call, or they just want reinforcing that they're in the right place. So they see a piece of content, they like what they see, they click through, they get to a website and it doesn't reinforce the piece of content they've just seen, you've lost them. So your content, not only online but on your website, has to reinforce what you've talked about online, otherwise you've lost them. And it's very, very difficult to do. It's very time consuming to do. If you don't know what you're doing, it's almost impossible to do. That's why we work so successfully with our clients, is because we're like, no, slow down a little bit. What's a website looking like? What's the customer journey going to look like? And until you can get that bit right, you shouldn't be putting out tons and tons of content. Don't get me wrong, you put out tons and tons of content, you're going to get lucky. But we've already said, we don't want you lucky, we want you to have a strategy. Okay, we're just going to pull up at CrossFit. It's always rammed full of children because it's the school holidays at the moment. But let's head over to CrossFit and see how that goes. So back from CrossFit, that is hard. It's got to be 28 degrees. I know it was 27 yesterday, 27, 28. It's hard work working outside in that sort of heat. Absolutely very, very difficult. But let's go back to content. So what should the framework actually look like then for your business, for your website? You're doing all this content. What should happen? Okay, so let's just kind of get a top-down view, and then we can break it down into detail a little bit later. But I wanted to give you like a top-down view. So first up, produce your content, goes out on social media, and then each page each product should have its own page. And so each post should post talking about that specific product or service, or it might be an overall thing about your company, but it should send them to a very specific page. And this is like mistake number one, is that people are just sending them to the home page. Yeah, you sort it out. You have a look and find out where to go. And that's not really helpful for your people watching your content or consuming your content. They want to go to something that's relevant to the piece of content that you've just made and that you've posted out. So you post out a piece of content, it's got, it could be a video, it could be an image, it could be some text, it's got a call to action, and then the people click the link, they go to your website, they might watch more, read more, find out about a particular product or service. Then once they're on that page, what do you want them to do? So it's this concept of always sell the next step. What's the next easy thing that you want them to do? And I know you're going to say, oh, well, I just want them to buy straight off a page, but it's not going to happen, right? So let's just forget about people buying for now. That's not going to happen to a visitor usually who's just visited your website, doesn't know anything about you. They're not going to buy, so forget about that. How can you move them along your sales and marketing funnel? So there's something that you could get them to opt into, like a free download where they can interact with your brand. Is there some free training, something where they can watch you on a video? What is it? Because if they can watch you on a video and start consuming more content, in their mind they're already building a relationship with you. And all sales really come from a relationship, pretty much all of them. Why do you buy from Amazon? Because you know the customer service is really good, and because you know the cheapest products, probably, right? I know we've got some dodgy practices as well, but let's just ignore those for now. But this is you building your relationship with a potential customer. It's not just about getting them to buy, because it's not going to happen. And so in your framework, you've got to be, what's the download, what's the giveaway, how can I get them to interact with my brand a little bit more? And then after that, what's the follow-up sequence? Is it an email campaign? Is it more content? Is it more free content behind an email wall? You know, where you have to put an email and a password to get into it. It's free of charge, but you know, like a free membership. So what is that? And that's down to you to actually work out what that's going to be, so that you can get them to start building this relationship with you. And when they start building a relationship with you, then at that point, that's when they're more than likely going to buy. So this is the bit that you need to get done, that you need to understand in your marketplace and on your website and all of your content, is that you've got to get this lot in place. And if you're not, all this content that you're creating right now, it's not going anywhere. It might build a bit of brand awareness, you might get lucky, but as we said before, we don't want luck, we want strategy.